when we cross to the spirit world, we're crossing at a time when it is almost predetermined by our own soul. We have a window that we can cross, and that is part of our soul's experience as well in how we cross.
Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast.
Today we are going to be talking about horror stories from a psychic. Now, I have been thinking about this. This topic dropped in when I was taking a shower. And I was like, I have lots of stories to talk about where people were led astray, things that I have experienced, especially from my culture. Clients have shared their stories, and colleagues and friends have shared their stories of horrible things that have happened either through a psychic, in spiritual experiences, things that, maybe you might see in a movie. And I would love to share those with you on this podcast. Now, there was so many that I had that I actually divided it into 3 weeks. So we'll have a series of 3, and they'll culminate into sort of the most horrific ones on week number 3, which will end up airing right before Halloween. So I thought that's quite interesting, the timing of it. Spirit's always right timing us. And I'll also share the background stories of what is happening from a spiritual perspective and energetic perspective, so you can understand what it is. It's not just horror. We're not doing campfire horror and you go to sleep scared. This is about understanding the world of energy and what is actually happening. So in each episode, I'm going to share a few stories to honor the time as well. I like to keep these episodes under about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes at most, because I really want it to be bingeable and easy to listen to versus having to try to listen for hours and hours and hours. So the horror stories from a psychic is a perspective. As I look down all of my stories, there's one about listening to a psychic that really was detrimental to her. There was, we're going to talk about energy of spaces, haunted houses, possession. Is it real? How does that work? And even terrible psychic readings that turned out to really be hurtful. From a psychic perspective, those are horrific to me because they are that's not our goal. Our number one creed is to do no harm as a psychic medium. And we are meant to leave people better than we found them. So people come to us because they're going through a hard time. And as a psychic medium, I'm an emissary of spirit. I'm the I bridge the gap between spirit and the 3D physical world. And I'm here to bring messages of love and connection and support and guidance from a perspective of you have free will. I'm empowering you to do what you need to do. I can't tell you everything that you're going to do because you haven't done it yet. The future is written through your own choices, right? And the way that you think about things, you bring about those things. So the power inherently is always in you. If you believe in such things, then it will have power over you. And if you don't believe in such things, then it can't affect you. So it's really interesting. I had this one actually just came to mind. It wasn't one of the ones that I've written down, but I had someone come to me and said, I think I'm cursed. And I went, okay, what makes you think you're cursed? And she said, well, over the last year, just bad thing after bad thing after bad thing has been happening to me. And I said, well, what are some of those bad things? And when she recounted the bad things, quote unquote, they were all life lessons. And she had direct relationship to each one. A choice she made brought these bad things about, right? So dating a bad guy, making a bad investment, trusting the wrong person, they were all leading back to healing herself as she gave her power away to others. And these were all ways that she stopped herself from moving forward because she was continuously sabotaging. But I don't believe sabotage is not actually a thing that you can do to yourself, because your body, your mind, and your spirit love you so much. So they're actually trying to keep you safe. So this was a safety mechanism to keep her from moving forward. So I said to her, you actually need therapy, not an exorcist. And she didn't believe me. She's like, well, if you don't know anyone, I said, hey, I know people. I sent her the name of a shaman that I send people to. I have a few people in my circle of, if there's some things happening there, I have referrals out to those people who do that work. And they sent her to that person. And I haven't heard from her since, which is really interesting. And she isn't doing the healing work that she has, when she came into my life. We'd taken some similar credentials, some similar courses and stuff, and she wanted to do work in those fields. And as far as I know, she's not doing that work anymore. So it's interesting, could she have changed direction? Sure. Is there something in her that was giving her power away to a curse? Yes, 100%. A curse feels like you can't, no matter what you do, you're doing everything right, you're thinking about everything right, and yet there's weird things that continue to happen that is almost like painful and hurtful to you or to someone you love. And in Malaysia, India, in Asia, cursing is a very big thing. They curse others because of jealousy, because of a perceived slight. And a curse just means that they're kind of sending energy to prevent you from moving forward in your life or to make you pay in some way. And can you send energy in that way? Sure. Why not? You can send energy in a prayer. Why can't you send a curse? And again, a curse is something, again, believed in many cultures around the world. And if you believe in a curse coming for you, guess what? There's a curse. You give it energy and power by believing in its yes or no, right? So I personally don't believe in curses. I walk in the light. I have angels surrounding me. I am so supported and protected that nothing really, that nature can touch me, because I really believe that I walk in the light. Does that mean that someone couldn't try to curse me down the road? Sure. But they would have to deal with some of the protections that I have up around me. And my mother is a spiritual healer. So I have that. I just don't, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. And if you go to cultures around the world, there's a very strong, deep belief that these things exist. So just being aware of that. I used to have a teacher that said, if you don't lay down with dogs, you can't get fleas. And I think it's the same thing with your mind. Chaos and fear can feed energy of chaos and fear. So if you want to keep yourself in a place of alignment, then you're focusing on what you want, what brings you joy, and really amplifying that. Whenever you watch a horror story or a movie, a scary movie, the lead character isn't smiling and laughing and joking. And, I feel like if something were to come for me, they might kind of laugh, because I would be laughing, because it's like, there's nothing, you can't touch me. It's about what you believe you manifest into the world. So that belief of things, if, do things exist in the world? Yes. Right. And what you believe you manifest. So this woman did not have a curse, and it has prevented her from moving forward in her life. But that is her own fear. She hasn't gone, and she wouldn't go to therapy. I don't understand the block. Instead would go to a shaman, would go to a psychic, would go to anyone else, but actually do the inner work. And this is why I don't really love doing readings anymore, because it's not an excuse to stop doing the inner work, So my readings now include all the things, including grief counseling, because you can't hide from a psychic who's trauma informed and trauma trained. So that is my first story. Second story is a beautiful, a woman who trusted a psychic. And this one, a story came to me through a colleague that I love dearly. And she was telling me the story when I told her that I was going to be doing this podcast. She's like, "Oh, I've got a horror story for you." And I was like, "Please share." She said, "I have someone in my life who consulted a psychic. And when she saw the psychic said, 'You're only going to have one child.'" And so she believed the psychic. In this culture, it's very, psychics hold a lot of power and clout. So this woman believed the psychic had a beautiful baby boy with her husband and then got pregnant shortly after. And fearing the worst, she terminated the pregnancy. And then she proceeded to get pregnant multiple times after that because it was her marriage. She was in a loving relationship. And every time she got pregnant, she terminated the pregnancy to the tune of about 30 times. And then she got pregnant and they thought, well, why don't we just try and see? They wanted a little girl because they already had a little boy. And the baby, they miscarried at 7 weeks. And when the doctor kind of examined, found out that there was a lot of scar tissue that had now damaged the reproductive system to the point where she could not hold a pregnancy any longer. So did she manifest that prophecy of one child only because of her fear? Or was she not able to carry another child to term? I guess we'll never know. But she manifested that prophecy because it was planted in her mind that she would only have one child. My heart breaks for this woman and is so angry that the psychic would say that. Because as much as we know, we don't know. We don't actually know. I did have a reading with a lady who I just did not see her carrying a baby to term because I just kept seeing her uterus was very feeling of barren, like it was not fertile. It couldn't hold things. It felt very desert like. So I said, "I feel like your uterus is not able to hold a child. Is that correct?" And she said, "That is correct." They said, "The lining doesn't get thick enough, but they're giving me injections and we're trying to go through, IVF." And I said, "You please continue to try, but I feel like you will have a baby through surrogate or through adoption." And she's like, "That's not an option for us." And I said, "I understand that. You have to do what you need to do. And this is a process. You will eventually get around to it being an option because everything else has been exhausted. And then I would like you to open your mind to surrogacy or adoption. And that is when you will have a baby. I feel like that's when you'll have a baby. You're meant to be a mom. I know that. I felt it. I felt it so strongly in my heart. And I felt that that was something for her to hold on to for hope, so keep trying. I said, "I hope I'm full of crap. I hope I'm lying and this part of it is not true and you have a baby tomorrow. I really hope that for you. I enough for me to know that you're having uteral problems. And I also feel like there's going to be help needed to hold the baby." So I heard about 2 years ago that they had a baby through surrogacy. And it makes me so happy because I know they're meant to be loving, wonderful parents. And also, there was a part of me that was hoping I was wrong. Right. So I can just have this feeling and know what's happening in your body and know what's happening. But as much as I know, I don't actually know. So I always say to my clients, please pretend like I don't know anything and continue down the path that you would have been going. Don't stop trying to have a child just because I feel like your uterus is not going to hold a baby. You can still have a baby, just not through conventional means. And sure enough, she did. So those are the hardest readings. I don't want to lie because then that's not truthful. And then saying a harsh truth requires a lot of love and support around it and really keeping an open mind that I could be wrong. Right. So I really keep that in mind when I'm doing a reading. I had a reading for someone who came back after a few years and she said, "You said I wasn't going to have a baby." And I said, "I definitely would never say that. If you go back and listen to the recording, you would hear that I said that you would not have a baby from your own uterus and you were going to need a support from someone else." This is another client. And I said, "I do have a feeling like you're looking at surrogacy now." And she said, "We are." And I said, "I feel like you're looking at surrogacy from another country." And she said, "That's correct." And I said, "Keep going. That's how you're going to have a baby. I can feel it, but it's going to be a little bit more timing wise. So just keep going, keep trying. That's not, you want a baby so badly. It's going to, I feel like it's going to happen for you. And I'm not saying that because I'm like trying to be a cheerleader and, don't dash your dreams. I really feel like she's meant to be a mom, right? Is that me being a little biased because I really want, if you want to be a mom, I want you to be a mom. Yeah, there could be. I mean, no psychic is unbiased. So I really want you to hear that. I'm not an unbiased psychic. I have bias because I care about people. I want your dreams to come true, right? Is it hard for me to tell you that the dreams that you want, if I'm feeling it in a certain way, isn't going to come true in the way that you think? Yeah, it is really hard. And it's not for me to tell you that. And I will say that for you. I'm not here to dash your hopes. What do you want and why do you want it? And are you open to it moving in a different direction? Because your soul is desiring this for a reason, right? If it's desiring it for a reason, then there is a way for it to come to fruition. It just might not be the way that you think it's going to come in, right? We don't know the how, we just know the what. And that's part of manifestation and part of spirituality is we have to really release the how and keep trusting and keep moving in the direction of our dream as the step presents itself, right? So the horror stories from a psychic is really about believing a psychic over your own knowing and trusting that they are telling you something that is contrary to what you want. They don't have power over you. You have power over you, right? And in this same vein, I have a client, colleague, friend who had somebody in her life pass away tragically from a motorcycle accident. And this young man had a fiance who was friends with her son. So there was this sort of connection through these young people, and she's sort of my age. And she messaged me and said, I think my son and this other person need to have a reading with you because they just had a horrible reading with a medium. And I said, oh my gosh, what happened? So the story goes, this young man passed away from a motorcycle accident. His fiance went to a medium who was referred, which I was like, who is this medium? She wouldn't give me the answer to that story because I would have contacted her, said, why are you telling people this? So she had a reading with this other medium, and the medium said to her, he died because of you. He died because he took a vow to not be loved in this lifetime, and you broke that vow. So he had to go. He had to cross to the other side. She believed that she caused the motorcycle accident, even though she wasn't there. And I don't know the story behind the motorcycle accident or whatever happened, but it was truly tragic. He wasn't trying, and it just happened. It was his time to cross. And the medium said he didn't want to be loved, and you broke that vow, which is so full of crap. Like, I want to swear so bad on here, but it's so full of crap. It's not true. You are the essence of love. How can you be in this lifetime and not be loved? It's to deny your true essence, right? So that's not even a vow that you would take. And if that's a vow that you would take, then you would become a monk on a mountaintop and live there. Why would he want to get married? He proposed to her. So it was also a feeling of his soul to have this experience, to be loved. And right away, as soon as I heard that, I got really angry because it's so damaging, right? It's like praying, it's victimizing someone who is already in a grieving state. It's just awful. So I said, please let her know I'm ready. I'll hop on a phone call. I will share. This doesn't make any sense. I don't know why any medium would say you caused his death, because she didn't, right? When we cross to the spirit world, we're crossing at a time when it is almost predetermined by our own soul. We have a window that we can cross, and that is part of our soul's experience as well in how we cross. So sometimes we can cross fast and sometimes we cross slow. When you cross slow, you die from something that is kind of a long illness, right? So cancer, Lou Gehrig's, ALS, you're sort of, it's a degenerative passing. And so you have time to say goodbye. You have time to wrap up affairs. People have time to make your last moments, well, as much as they can, because sometimes even then you cross before anyone expects you to. But when you cross fast, there is no degeneration. There's no watching someone, sort of become less of who they are, which can have its own grief. And there's also no time to say goodbye. So there can be a feeling of like, there's not enough space and time. I wish I had more time. I wish I had, there can be a lot of guilt around that kind of passing as well. And I always like to urge my clients and friends to go back to the last conversation you had with that person. The soul always knows. The soul always knows. So if you go back to the last conversation, you will see that you might have hugged them a little tighter. You might have said goodbye versus see you later or bye. And you might have said some things that you normally wouldn't say in a bye, right? It's just, it is a finishing off. It is the last words you said to someone who passed suddenly were the right and perfect words. The soul always knows. Right. So in this instance, when this young man passed away, there's obviously a lot of grief for his fiancée of a future that they had envisioned together that it was now not going to be. And this medium, it was interesting because I was talking to a few of my colleagues and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, who would say this to a client? And a colleague actually reflected back to me what happened. So as a medium, we keep our energy high and we're connecting to spirit and to the person. So we're sort of saying, I have your fiance here. Would you understand that? She would say, yes. He passed from a motorcycle accident. Does that make sense? Yes. So in that time when we are sort of waiting for the yes or the no, because we need that to make sure that we're on the right track, because it's not a science, y'all, like it's not an equation. We are interpreting, right? So there is room for error. So if, let's say, I felt like he died in a motor vehicle accident and I said he was in a car, well, that was not correct. He was in a motorcycle. So if I had said a car and she said no, then that would be my opportunity to kind of really feel into what I'm experiencing. And I would see I'm on a motorcycle. Yes. So that is how it works in a mediumship. We're just saying statements and we're getting a yes or a no for each statement. So what happens when you're a medium is you're keeping yourself connected with spirit while you are waiting for the yes, no. So your attention is really up into spirit. If you are a beginner or you don't know how to keep your energy high, what can happen is that you're sort of reaching up and then you're here, and then you reach up and then you give your message to the person. So you're not actually staying connected to spirit. Meanwhile, the story is continuing on its path and you're missing parts of the story because you are kind of reaching up every so often to get bits of it. An analogy to help you understand what that feels like is watching a movie. So you're watching a movie play and then you go to the bathroom, you come back. Now the movie is at a different part of the story and you're left to your own devices to figure out what happened between what happened last and what you're seeing now. Then you go make yourself some popcorn, you come back and the story is at a different place. So as a medium, if you're keeping reaching up for information versus staying connected to the spirit, you're going to miss parts of the story. So in this story, what the medium missed was he said, I love you so much. Your love has catapulted me into higher echelons on the other side. And it's because of your love that now I understand what it is to be so unconditionally loved. Thank you for this gift. I would have married you. We would have had children together. We had lots of hopes and dreams. And now I want you to have those dreams with someone else when you're ready. That was the true message. What the spirit got was, I died. I died in a motorcycle accident. I died because you loved me. Right? You see how she missed all the middle parts of that message. She was just reaching up and getting bits and pieces of it, didn't connect all the dots, and then made up a story of how those things came together. So horrifying, isn't it? It's so damaging. It actually makes me really mad. And my beautiful friend would not give me this person's phone number because I literally would have called them and said, this, you cannot read like this, right? I'm not the medium police, there's no such thing. But if I was, I'd be arresting you because this is so, we are at a place in people's lives where we're supposed to be bringing healing, not damaging them, right? So horrifying. So next week, I'm going to talk about haunted house and possession. And I'm excited to share those stories with you. Thank you for following along on Horror Stories of a Psychic. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.